Good afternoon. Today we're going to be comparing subject and object relative clauses, and we will review some of the rules for subject and object relative clauses. Okay, so let's start with a quick overview. All relative clauses have relative pronouns. These are different relative pronoun types. For subject relative clauses that are human, we use who. For subject relative clauses that are non-specific, we can use that for both human and non-human. And for non-human, such as animals and things, we use which. For object relative clauses that are human, we use who and whom. If it's not specific, maybe an object or maybe a human, we use that. And for object relative clauses that are referring to animals or things, we use which. So let's look at subject relative clauses. The relative pronoun in the relative clause is the subject of the clause. So look at these two sentences and we will combine them. A dog lives next door. It barks a lot. Okay, so here my subject is a dog. Okay, it's the subject, a dog. Okay, so we're going to combine both of these sentences together using a relative clause. The dog that lives next door barks a lot. So, okay, what dog? That lives next door. Okay, and here, that lives next door. That is referring to the dog. Okay, and that is a subject relative pronoun. Okay, it's the subject of this relative clause right here. That lives next door. Here, remember that for subject relative pronouns, we can use that, which, and who. Okay. Okay, let's look now at object relative clauses. The relative pronoun in the object relative clause is the object of the clause. Okay, so for example, the girl lives next door. I met her. Okay, I met her. All right, so now we're going to combine them, and here they are combined. The girl whom I met lives next door. Okay, here, whom I met, it's the object. Okay, that is the object relative pronoun. Okay, we can use that, which, who, whom, and we also don't need a relative pronoun sometimes. Okay, let's look at this now. So I met her. I met whom I met. So we can see that here I met her is the object, and I met whom, okay, is also the object. Okay, so the relative pronoun is the object of the clause. Okay, I met her, whom. Here, whom is referring to the girl, okay, which is the subject of the sentence. But here, whom I met is the object of the relative clause. I met whom I met. Okay, so let's look at levels of formality for object relative clauses. We're going to take 10 seconds to rank these sentences from 1, most formal, to 4, least formal. Okay, so I'm going to read them and rank them in your mind. All right, here we go. I saw the boy who you like. I saw the boy that you like. I saw the boy you like. I saw the boy whom you like. Okay, take 10 seconds to rank these according to levels of formality. Okay, the most formal is the last one. I saw the boy whom you like. Okay, we use whom in formal writing. Okay, so we use whom in formal writing. This object relative pronoun whom is used mostly in writing. Okay, the next most formal one is I saw the boy who you like. So this is somewhat formal. It's not the most formal, but it's somewhat formal. Okay, number 3 is I saw the boy that you like. Okay, and the last and least formal, number 4, I saw the boy you like. Here we use we don't have a relative pronoun. We dropped it. Okay, so we usually omit the object relative pronoun in speech only. Okay, and you can do that for both objects and people. Okay, let's move forward and let's do a rule review. Okay, so is this sentence correct? Take 10 seconds. Okay, I will read it first. Jan met a boy which loves her. Okay, 10 seconds. Is the sentence correct? The answer is no. Why? Because we use who or that for people and which or that for things. So we have to change which, because which is referring to a boy, okay? And this boy is a person, so we use who, okay? Okay, next, is this sentence correct? Her name is Janice, which it is a nice name. Okay, take 10 seconds. Okay, is it correct? All right, the answer is no. The problem with this sentence, which is referring to her name, okay? Her name is a nice name. Janice is a nice name. So of course we can say it and we can use which, but the problem is that we are repeating the subject inside the relative clause. We already have which, and that's the relative pronoun, and it functions as Janice. So if I add it, I'm repeating the subject, so we don't want it, okay? Her name is Janice, which is a nice name. That's correct. Okay, let's look at this sentence. Tell me if it's correct. The woman that teaches is kind. Okay, take 10 seconds. Okay, the answer is no. The reason why is because we do not use that with commas. So don't use that with commas, okay? Okay, let's move forward now. Is this sentence correct? The student who sit next to you is smart. Okay, take 10 seconds. The answer is no. Okay, we have to make sure that the subject, okay, the student, and the verb in the relative clause, sit next to you, agree with each other. So here we have third person singular. The student sits next to you. The student who sits next to you is smart. So we still need to make sure that the verb and the subject agree with each other, okay? Third person singular rule. Okay, let's move forward now. Let's look at another sentence. Is this correct? The student who you sit next to is smart. Okay, take 10 seconds. So is this sentence correct? Well, we have who, which is a relative pronoun, and we have you, which is a relative pronoun. But are they the same? Well, the answer is no. They are not the same, and the answer is that the sentence is correct. Because this is an object relative clause. Okay, the subject in the relative clause is not the noun. Okay, so this subject here is not the noun. Who is referring to the student. Okay, you sit next to who? You sit next to the student. Okay, you sit next to who? Who you sit next to. Okay, so who is referring to the student and not to you. So we're not repeating the subject. So this is an object relative clause. Okay, let's do a quick summary of the rules that we learned. Please remember that for subject relative clauses that are human, we use who. If it's non-specific, that means people or things or animals, we can use that. For non-human, and we are being very specific, in objects and things, objects and animals, we use which for subject relative clauses. For object relative pronouns, object relative clauses, we use who and whom when we're talking about people, that for either people or things or animals, and which for only animals. And let's do one quick sentence, one quick correction, okay? So look at this sentence. Try to find all the errors in this sentence, okay? You have 10 seconds. Let me read it to you first. The girl which she lived next door is beautiful. Okay, 10 seconds. Try to find all the errors. Okay, first error. We don't use which. With people here, which is referring to the girl, so we use who or that for people and which and that for things. So we don't use which, we use who. Next, we don't repeat the subject inside the relative clause. So we don't want to place the subject inside the relative clause, okay? So here we don't say she, no, because we have who. So the girl who, okay? We already have who, we don't need to repeat it. It's a subject relative clause, okay? Next, the verb in the relative clause and the subject must agree. So the girl who lives, okay? The girl lives The girl who lives next door, not next door, is beautiful. So that concludes this presentation. If you have any thoughts, questions, or concerns, please email me. And thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in class.